This behind the scenes video is sponsored by Razer and Nvidia Studio, who I recently shot a commercial for. Yeah, it was a really fun project to work on with a ton of incredibly talented people, and if you haven't seen it yet, I would highly suggest checking it out. Mainly because if you don't, this video probably isn't going to make too much sense. So the idea for this one comes from the fact that Razer really want their laptops to be associated with more than just gaming. So the way to show this was pretty simple. Actually have people from various different creative professions and creative fields use the laptop and film it in a cool way. This commercial was never going to be about the specs and the numbers, it's about presenting the laptop as an option for creative professionals, showing that it can be used in this way, so when they're out looking for their next workhorse of a computer, this will be front of mind. At the risk of sounding overly pretentious, I wanted this video to feel like a creative flow state. You know, it's constantly in motion, it's flowing through the process. These are artists, they're creating art, it's not perfect, it's rough around the edges. That's what makes it art, and I wanted the commercial to stylistically reflect that. Yeah, that was overly pretentious, wasn't it? So to achieve this stylistically, I decided pretty early on that we were going to be heavy-handed with ultra-wide-angle lenses. There's going to be big, dynamic, handheld moves, grain, lens flares, whip pans. Of course, we were going to be shooting it in 4x3. Film emulation, film burns, a mixture of stills and video. I was throwing everything at this project. So we had an idea, we had a style, we had references, we had a pitch that is now fully signed off by the client, and after a few weeks of logistics, we had a full shoot planned. But before we begin the breakdown, I'm going to talk a little bit about Nvidia Studio because you're going to hear me referencing it quite a bit. And if you're wondering why I'm not recording this in my office, it's because I've just come back from a 17-day filming trip. And it currently looks like this. Nvidia Studio is a hardware and software solution that works to make your applications even faster. So you've got the RTX 30 series GPUs, which have dedicated hardware for ray tracing, they've got artificial intelligence cores, they've got encoding and decoding engines, and Nvidia works with software developers to leverage this hardware to make applications run faster, which I think we can all agree sounds very fancy indeed. With Nvidia Studio, you get top tier performance in 70+ creative applications. You also get the regular Nvidia Studio drivers, and you also get Nvidia Studio validated products, which Nvidia have tested to ensure that they meet the needs of the creator, which this Razer Blade 17 is. Sounds pretty sweet. Day one starts at Brighton Studios, and the reason I actually jumped on this project when it came through into my inbox is because the Razer Blade really is the only gaming laptop that I can think of that actually looks at home in a professional environment. I know it seems stupid, and it really is stupid, but with clients and professionals around who are paying you to do a professional, serious thing, your kit looking serious and professional is kind of important. I mean, it can be covered in stickers and personal touches, but it still needs to look like it means business. The Blade is sleek, it's metal, it's sturdy, and most importantly for us filming this commercial, it looks right at home in a photography studio. Now this opening shot was a huge challenge because my original idea just completely failed. It looked terrible. So that meant that I was trying to reinvent the wheel and come up with a completely new plan whilst under pressure, with everyone in the crew and talent looking at me for instructions. This is the part of filmmaking that doesn't necessarily get shared too often because it's not particularly glamorous, but it's high pressure and it's scary. You know, this was our most expensive day, we didn't have much time at the location, and this was the opening sequence for the commercial, so it had to be right. Thankfully, in the back of my mind, I had this idea of creating a hard shard of light that hit our talent and created a cool shadow up on the wall. Adding some foreground elements and a little bit of extra dirt in the frame with some extra finesse to the lighting, and we had something that worked really nicely. And the 180-degree whip pan that we did revealing our photographer actually was 2 shots stitched together with a hidden cut in the whip, and I am so pleased that that actually worked out. Day 2 starts with Anabel, our incredibly talented musician. Her music actually fueled the pre-production of this commercial. One focus of this laptop is the sound experience. Consuming media on this thing is lovely because of how good the sound is. It's almost a little bit confusing, it doesn't make sense how the sound can be so rich and come from seemingly so many different locations on an object so small. I must admit, I've never really had a laptop with like spatial audio before, but I was like looking around it, trying to work out where all the speakers are. So this is a feature that Razer really wanted shown off, and musicians seem to tie in somewhat tangentially with that, and I must say I'm really happy with how this scene looked. Dan, my gaffer, did a wonderful job at making my lighting dream come to life, and filming this just really reminded me of the weird problem solving of filmmaking. For example, our dolly wouldn't go low enough, so we just took the tripod off the dolly and put it onto a rug, and then pushed the rug on the slippery wooden floor. Our probe lens shots were at the risk of scratching kit, so we just took a fingerless glove and taped it to the end of it. Dozens of these little fixes get made on every single shoot, and it just reminds me how much of filmmaking is all about thinking outside the box for solutions. The next scene we shot was the colorist in the office. Now this activity is likely the most power hungry of all of the ones featured in the commercial, and we wanted to make sure that the people watching the commercial knew that this laptop was capable of these sorts of activities. DaVinci Resolve is one of many Nvidia accelerated programs, and the RTX 3070 Ti, 12th generation i7 processor and 16GB of DDR5 RAM totally have it covered. To light in such a small space is always incredibly challenging, especially when you want to keep it low-key and dark. Preventing light from spilling everywhere is one of the biggest challenges in cinematography, because maintaining pools of light and dark is key to creating a cinematic image. Now to achieve this, we used a mirror in the corner of the room, bouncing a hard light onto Tom, our editor, giving him a nice edge light, and then we extended this light, making use of a pavo tube to give him that soft wrap. The pavo tube had a grid on it, making it directional because otherwise the room would be completely flooded with light. And then the final detail was just firing a light into the ceiling at 5600 Kelvin, just to increase the room tone a little bit, open up the shadows, and then we had a lighting setup that I was happy with. Oh gosh, things have gotten really bright back there. Why must it be sunny in England? This never happens. Oh, that's really distracting, isn't it? Alright, this now looks very different, but try your best to ignore it. The fourth scene that we filmed was our artist. The display on this laptop is really a standout feature for me. Firstly, 17 inches is just a lot of screen real estate, and the richness of the colours and the contrast, it's gorgeous. You know, I'm spoiled with having studio monitors, and even I was impressed with this one. It renders images really beautifully, which is why an artist seemed like a perfect fit for this commercial. Working within your limitations is one of the most important skills in film. Once we got all of the lights up, we realized we actually really didn't have much space to work with. We almost had a 30-degree arc in which the camera could show without seeing light stands and other bits and pieces. We didn't really have time to make large adjustments to the lighting setup as we had very little time at the location, so if you can't get angle variety, then you go for shot variety and lens variety. Ultra wide angle lenses mixed in with macro lenses mixed in with low shutter speed time lapses gave us just enough to work with to create a really interesting scene. And finally, that brings us on to the product shot. With no clean shots of the laptop in the entire commercial, it was important we had this to wrap things up. Now, one minor detail that I wish I'd drawn a little bit more attention to throughout the commercial, and maybe in this product shot as well, is the number of ports, because for us creative professionals, having a large number of ports is like, it's lovely. It's so boring to talk about, but being actually able to plug all of your things in is good. I don't know why laptops limit the number of ports they have. Now obviously, with this being the hero shot, the focus needs to be on the laptop, but with a completely black backdrop, the shot looked weird. It just didn't fit in with the rest of the commercial. So after scratching my head for a little while, I moved my invisible stand out, I put the laptop down on a pelly case, and I just put a bunch of other just professional looking kit around in the background, and suddenly it put the laptop into reality and it made it fit in with the rest of the commercial. So that got it 90% of the way there, and then as I was adjusting my camera, I just shot one slow shutter speed time lapse, and when I chucked that into the edit, that was just everything that it needed. It was that final little bit of detail that it needed to get it over the line. So I'm super proud of this one. I'm really happy with how everything came together. I hope that you enjoyed the commercial itself and this little look behind the scenes. And I love the laptop. And yeah, I'm sure I'll chat to you again soon. See ya.